Think about the last time someone asked you for something you did not want to give. Maybe it was your time, your energy, your presence at something you dreaded, and you said yes anyway, not because you wanted to, but because the moment you felt the pull to say no, something else arrived first. A tightness in the chest, a quiet fear of what they would think, a voice that said, if you say no, something will break. So you rearranged yourself. Again, this pattern has a name in psychology. Researchers call it boundary anxiety, the chronic difficulty a person has protecting their own limits without experiencing guilt, shame, or fear of relational loss. It is not a personality flaw, it is a learned response. And it is remarkably common in people who were taught directly or indirectly that their value to others depended on their availability. But where does this begin? Why do some people find it genuinely painful to simply protect what is theirs? For some, it started with a family system where saying no was dangerous. Not physically dangerous necessarily, but emotionally costly. A parent who withdrew affection when disappointed. A home where keeping the peace meant constant self-erasure. Those children learned that love was conditional on compliance, and they carried that equation quietly into every relationship that followed. For others, it developed through years of being praised specifically for their selflessness. They were the reliable one, the helper, the person everyone could count on. That identity became their worth. And so protecting a boundary began to feel like betraying themselves, like dismantling the very thing that made them lovable in the eyes of others. And there are those who simply never saw it modeled. No one in their life ever said calmly, clearly, without drama, this is what I need and this is what I won't do. They grew up believing that healthy adults just absorbed everything, that needing limits was a sign of weakness or selfishness. The concept of a boundary felt foreign, almost aggressive, simply because they had never watched someone hold one with grace. Inside the experience of boundary anxiety, there is a very specific internal monologue. It sounds like, if I say no, they will be hurt. If they are hurt, it is my fault. If it is my fault, I am a bad person. The logic moves that quickly and that completely. It is not dramatic. It feels like fact. And underneath the guilt is something older. A fear that if you stop being endlessly available, the people you love will quietly stop choosing you. What you may rarely say out loud is this: you are exhausted by your own generosity. Not the giving itself, but the giving that was never chosen. That happened because refusal felt too costly. You have said yes to so many things you meant no to, that you have lost track of where your actual preferences live. And some part of you grieves that. Over time, the cost of this accumulates in ways that are hard to name. Resentment begins to collect in places where warmth used to live. You find yourself going through the motions of relationships that once felt meaningful. Your body starts to tighten in anticipation of certain people, certain conversations, certain requests, before a word is even spoken. The body is not wrong. It is simply recording what the mind has been too kind to admit. So, why is change so difficult, even for people who understand all of this completely? Because guilt is not evidence of wrongdoing. It is a signal of a violated rule. And for people with boundary anxiety, the rule was written a long time ago by someone else. Changing the behavior means confronting the rule. And confronting the rule means asking a question that feels almost too large. What do I actually need, and am I allowed to have it? There are signs that help you recognize when this pattern is running in your life. You may notice that you feel relieved when people cancel plans you agreed to, but never wanted, because cancellation removes the need to hold a boundary yourself. You may notice that after saying yes to something you meant no to, a low, quiet resentment follows. Not anger, just a slow dimming of warmth. You may also notice that you rehearse difficult conversations for days before having them, preparing defenses for a guilt you are already certain will arrive. And perhaps most quietly, you may notice that you find other people's boundaries, their easy, unapologetic no's, faintly threatening, as if their ability to protect themselves somehow indicts your inability to do the same. Here is what actually protects a boundary without requiring you to first eliminate the guilt. First, separate the guilt from the verdict. Feeling guilty does not mean you did something wrong. It means you did something unfamiliar. Let the feeling be present without treating it as evidence. Second, replace justification with brevity. You do not owe anyone a detailed explanation for protecting your energy. "I can't make that work" is complete. The longer the explanation, the more it signals that you are seeking permission, and permission is not yours to seek. Third, practice in low-stakes situations first. Say no to something small this week, an extra task, a social obligation you don't have the energy for. Let the discomfort be there. Notice that the relationship survives. Fourth, distinguish between disappointing someone and harming them. You are allowed to disappoint people. Disappointment is a feeling they can manage. You are not responsible for preventing every difficult emotion in the people around you. Fifth, notice whose comfort you are actually protecting. Often, what feels like kindness is actually conflict avoidance, and the person you are protecting is yourself from the discomfort of their reaction, not them from genuine harm. Sixth, understand that a boundary held with warmth is an act of respect. For them, because it is honest, and for you, because it is true. Here is the quiet truth. The guilt you feel when protecting yourself is not proof that you are selfish. It is proof that you were taught to make yourself small, and that you have been very obedient to that lesson. But obedience to an old rule is not the same as integrity. And the people who genuinely love you, not your usefulness, not your availability, but you, they do not need you to disappear into their needs in order to stay. You are allowed to take up space, not loudly, not at anyone's expense, just honestly, the way you always deserve to.